So we have wrapped up the 2025 NFL Draft, and a pick I like, yeah, starting at the top. I know this is kind of not really being too not really differentiating too much. The pick I really like is Cam Ward, number one overall to the Titans. Obviously, it's kind of chalky as far as picks to talk about. I know it's a pick you talked about a lot. It's a pick that's been discussed at length even prior to the draft. He was the guy that was he was the guy that was proposed to go number one for a long time. So yeah, the Tennessee Titans take Cam Ward at number one. It's a pick I really like. Cam Ward was one of my top 5 players. Second overall, Jacksonville took Travis Hunter. Really like Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was my number 5th ranked player, just behind Cam Ward. So I had my number 4th ranked player in Cam Ward go number 1, and then I had my 4th ranked player go number 1 and my 5th ranked player go number 2. So yeah, I really love Travis Hunter, love Cam Ward. Some other picks. Let's go down and kind of talk about some of the picks I liked in the first round. I made a video. I really liked Colston Loveland to the Bears. Picks that makes a lot of sense. Another weapon for Caleb Williams, like my buddy and I talked about. No excuses now for Colston. No excuses now for Caleb Williams. They've got plenty of weapons. Picks I wasn't huge on. Teteroa McMillan to the to the Cardinal or to the Panthers. Excuse me. Yeah, not big on Teteroa McMillan. I think there's some things to like about him as far as his releases off the line of scrimmage, the way he can accelerate in his routes. I mean, hands are okay, but there's a lot of people describing him as having really good hands. I did not see that as far as in his overall game. As far as at least in the games I watch, I watched him have several drops. I watched him have a couple drops, and it was on throws that were pretty close to him. Mykel Williams to the Niners, another pick I wasn't huge on. I think some guys I've heard have described Mykel Williams. The best way to describe Mykel Williams is like, you look at, like, when you look at the guy, you're like 6'5", looks the part, but when you break down his tape, it's like, it's underwhelming, not a lot of dominance. He's just not a very disruptive pass rusher, not a super disruptive player. So that's what concerns me with Mykel Williams. Membu to the Jets makes a lot of sense. Aaron Glenn, coach under Dan Campbell, they want to continue to build the offensive line. Kelvin Banks to the Saints. I didn't love Kelvin Banks, but the Saints, they kind of made that their MO to draft offensive linemen in the first round, and you got to respect it. The Saints want to build. They want to continue. They want to try to, I guess, continue. They've taken a step back, but they always want to have at least pieces on the offensive line. I think that's what's key is, like, you're never going to have there's not a lot of teams in the NFL on a year-in, year basis, unless you're the Lions, Eagles, Niners a couple years ago, or even the Cowboys going back a few years. It's hard to really have unless you're one of those teams that's sustaining a strong offensive line for years, or unless you have multiple guys that's helping sustain it for years, you're really, I don't know, you really just kind of want to keep drafting guys. I think that's the Saints' philosophy. They just want to keep drafting guys to, even if they're not sustaining a good offensive line long term, they want to at least get guys where they can build something, and they can at least build something solid, and in hopes that it'll be something strong in the long term. So that's kind of what the Saints, or that's kind of what I'm getting at, or the vibes I'm getting with the New Orleans Saints. Miami Dolphins took Kenneth Grant. Tyler Warren of the Colts. Yeah, that felt like I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I can kind of picture, I guess Warren's a guy I can picture in a Colts uniform. I don't know. He just seems like a Colt. Like, it feels like the Colts were due for a tight end like this, because yeah, you get all those years of Dallas Clark and yeah, you feel like they were due to have another good tight end, and yeah, the Colts seem like they always can find. Well, I guess this is not necessarily relevant in regards to their current regime, but it seems like the Colts have always had a knack for at least finding a good tight end or a good wide receiver. You know, pretty much over the years, and Tyler Warren I think has a chance to be a really good tight end for him. Jalen Walker to the Falcons wasn't a pick I loved, but I could see why they did it. Walter Nolan to the Cardinals, another pick I didn't necessarily love. I don't know. I should have broke down Walter Nolan's tape further. I think Nolan's a good player, but I think he's a good player, but I don't know. I felt like he wasn't, former 5-star guy, felt like he wasn't as dominant as he could have been. Bengals took Shamar Stewart. Yeah, Shamar Stewart, really good play. Really, bottom line is that there's potential for really high upside, or there's, with the athletic traits, there's a chance for Stewart to really develop into a great edge rusher as far as the physical traits are concerned. Jahdae Barron, that was a popular, a lot of people thought Jahdae Barron would go in the first round. He goes to the Denver Broncos at pick 20. Emeka Egbuka to the Buccaneers. Derek Harmon. Amarian Hampton to the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, for the Chargers, kind of like the Colts, seems like the Chargers always pretty rock solid at the skill position over the years. I mean, whether it's LaDainian Tomlinson or Keenan Allen, and now you get Melvin Gordon had some solid years. Now you get Amarian Hampton, another compliment to Justin Herbert, and another high level skill position player for the Chargers. James Pierce, Jahad Campbell to the Eagles, really nice pick too. Tyleik Williams to the Lions. A pick that's really grown on me. Malachi Starks to the Ravens. Starks considered one of the best safeties in this class. And then here we'll go. Take a look at the second round. Yeah, so the Cleveland Browns led off the second round, taking Carson Schlesinger, linebacker from UCLA. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to really dive deep into his tape, but there was a lot of good things. Being talked about with Carson Schlesinger. Jaden Higgins was the second pick in the second round to the Houston Texans. You had Seattle taking the safety, Nick Amonwara. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Quinshon Judkins to the Browns. And the Browns trying to make I feel like the Browns are trying to make a statement in this draft where we're trying to, not necessarily a statement that we're trying to make up for the Watson trade, but a statement in regards to we're just going to draft some really good football players, and we're not going to necessarily just hone in on attacking our needs. Obviously they did. I guess they kind of did that at the same time, but I felt like they were I feel like they were kind of making a little bit of a statement of best player available. Bears getting Luther Burden. I wasn't as high on Luther Burden as other people were, but there's definitely some things to like about Luther Burden. Guy that can stretch the field, he can make things happen after the catch. But yeah. Mason Taylor to the Jets. Alfred Collins to the Niners. Just naming off some of these second round picks. Donovan Ezeraku to the Cowboys. Alrighty. Interesting pick, right? I say I throw that term out, interesting. I would say I would say it's interesting because there's negatives with Izaraku. I mean, the size is a concern. The weight is a concern. Guys have touched this before. You look at top edge rushers in the NFL; they're all 260 plus, pushing 270. Chris Sims is making this point. You look at Izaraku. I mean, good football player, knows how to rush the quarterback, can tackle. I mean, productive stats this year to back it up. But I mean, the thing with the Cowboys is, Cowboys kind of struggled in recent years finding defensive linemen outside of Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, when they drafted him, he originally started as an off-ball linebacker. So Izaraku interesting for some of the negatives being outlined as far as the size is concerned, and then what do you play him at, or does he? Hopefully, he doesn't fall. Or hopefully, he doesn't become kind of like Mozzie Smith and some of the guys, Taco Charlton guys they've drafted in recent years, where he just doesn't work out. Just never develops into the player they hope. Colts took JT Tuimoloau. Some other picks. Arizona Cardinals here with the best pick of the second round, getting Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan. I think my buddy and I were talking about that pick. Like, that was the ultimate. That's the kind of I guess if you want to, I don't know. That's that is kind of a risk it for the biscuit play there, but it's a it's potential huge payout, because if Will Johnson is that guy, if he comes back from the knee issue, turf toe, and some of the injuries he's dealing with, and he plays like the Will Johnson of 2023, and even like this past year in 2024 that he flashed, if he comes back as that player, then the Arizona Cardinals get not just the steal of the second round, but they may have the steal of the draft with Will Johnson. Lions took Tate Rutledge, like that pick. Baltimore Ravens getting Mike Green. Yeah, I mean, good pick by the Ravens taking Mike Green. I think it was, at this point, one of those things. I mean, there's risks there with Mike Green, but I mean, hey, at this point, if Mike Green turns out to be the player that a lot of people think he can be, then it's a nice pick. Andrew Makuba to the Eagles. Yeah, Makuba, nice player. Just kind of the main discussion with Makuba was just a little undersized. Third round, Darius Alexander went to the Giants to lead off the third round. Harold Fannin Jr., the Browns took. That was a nice pick. Didn't really dive into Fannin's tape, but you watch his highlights and all the yardage he put up. Really like Kyle Williams to the Patriots here. Kyle Williams, I was a big fan of. Really nice receiver. The Bills took Landon Jackson. Siobhan Ravel to the Cowboys. Tall corner, fast. Some other notable picks. Josiah Stewart to the Rams. Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks. Dylan Gabriel to the Browns. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel is probably the most... he's one interesting player in this draft, just because the height thing, obviously concern. If you look at the way he throws the ball, pinpoint accuracy, long successful career in college, usually a formula for guys that see in the NFL. Look at Joe Burrow, had a long successful college career. You look at how look at how he's done in the NFL. Trying to think of another example. There's cases of guys that play in college. Cam Ward this year, we'll see how he pans out in the NFL. But there's stories like Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, Gabriel almost a unique story in its own right, because he's been with 3 different teams. But yeah, Dylan Gabriel got a chance to be has the been in college for a long time, so a lot of experience and a chance to be a really, really nice player in the NFL. Fourth round, some of the pick. The Jets took Arian Smith, speedy receiver out of Georgia. Cardinals took Cody Simon, linebacker out of Ohio State. Interesting. This is a guy I forgot about. The Bengals took Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson. Yeah, Barrett Carter, kind of a guy I really liked a couple years ago when I watched his tape, but just, I feel like he never, I guess, I don't know, never really developed into the linebacker I thought he was going to be. Steelers took Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, obviously, one of those guys that maybe his game doesn't translate to become, he may not become a superstar in the NFL, but a decorated college career, and a guy that, who knows, could find a role with the Steelers. Maybe he's a rotational guy. Maybe does make the roster and make some plays for him. Lathan Ransom, too, to the Carolina Panthers. Ransom, long, pretty solid career at Ohio State. Malachi Moore to the Jets. Malachi Moore, another guy kind of like Ransom. Safety, kind of played some nickel at Alabama. Long career there, was at Alabama at least, was it 5-6 years? But yeah, more talented player. And we'll see what he can do with the Jets. Move to round 5, kind of go quickly over some picks. Rondo Godson, tight end I liked out of Syracuse, went to the Chargers. Lions getting Miles Frazier, that was a good pick. Cardinals took Denzel Burke. Burke, considered a top corner a couple years ago in college football, but just, I don't know, that never really got a whole lot better. Really probably had his best season early on in Ohio State as a true freshman all the way back in, 21, 22. So it's been a few years. But Will Howard to the Steelers. Khalil Mullings to the Tennessee Titans. So we're in the 6th round. Excuse me, yeah. In the 6th round, Eagles took Miles Hinton, former Stanford offensive tackle, transferred to Michigan. Did a nice job at Stanford, nice job at Michigan. Graham Mertz, the Texans. Any other picks? No. Jimmy Horn to the Carolina Panthers. Any other notable picks here in the 6th round? The 7th round, yeah, the Dolphins took Ewers. Lions took Dan Jackson. They took Dominic Lovick. Dolphins took Quinn Ewers. So yeah, those are some of the notable picks in the draft. And yeah, so that's just kind of a brief overview of the draft and some of the picks I liked in each round.